My Decentralized Thesis and the Garden of Eden, a parallel of human design and modern disruption. Imagine the Garden of Eden, GOE, as the blueprint for humanity's optimal state, perfectly attuned to nature's rhythms, where sunlight, circadian alignment, and cellular harmony sustained life as God or evolution intended. In this divine or evolutionary design, 20% of hemoglobin, HB, delivers oxygen from the heart to the brain, fueling cognition, consciousness, and our unique mammalian identity. But what happens when that 20% is preserved in volume yet corrupted in function, with HB oxidized to metHb plus 3 state, unable to carry oxygen? Can we still embody the fullness of humanity as planned? This question mirrors the decentralized thesis we've been exploring, a vision of systems, biological, social, or technological, operating in harmony with nature's principles, free from centralized distortions. Like a flawed centralized protocol, modern life disrupts this design, and the consequences are profound. The fall from Eden. Modern life's assault on biology, just as the GOE represents humanity's symbiosis with nature, our decentralized thesis champions systems that align with natural laws, autonomous, resilient, and adaptive. Today's world, however, imposes a centralized override. Artificial light, non-native EMF and an EMF, and 24/7 tech divorce us from daylight and drown us in nightlight. This mirrors the epigenetic fall from Eden, where each generation strays further from the original blueprint. Chronic diseases, cancer, neurodegeneration, and metabolic collapse emerge not as random failures, but as predictable outcomes of this mismatch, accelerating transgenerationally as tech and light abuse intensify. The decentralized thesis warns that centralized systems, like modern tech-driven lifestyles, erode resilience, creating fragility where nature intended anti-fragility. Here is a question from Dr. Jack Kruse, follower question. Dr. Kruse, for some time, I have wondered what on earth the evolutionary advantage would be for female mammals to shed blood regularly. Culturally, we are taught that pain, crankiness, and fatigue are a normal part of our periods. But this occurs to me as BS. There are no evolutionary advantages to this. I enjoyed a book written by a woman who teaches the fertility awareness method and how to read the signs and symptoms in our cycle to understand better what is going on with our overall health. It's called The Fifth Vital Sign and considers tracking fertility signs and symptoms in women's bodies as a fifth vital sign that has much to teach us. This book is directionally accurate, but possibly inaccurate in some details. Generally, tracking signs and symptoms through the fertility awareness method has been one of my favorite biohacks. So I see pain and fatigue and crankiness as symptoms I am doing something wrong, living in a problematic environment. What about blood loss through menstruation? In the past, I read something that suggested that only domesticated mammals bleed as part of the estrous cycle. For wild mammals, they have a cycle, but blood loss is not a part of that. So I came to see menstrual bleeding as another symptom arising from a terrible environment: light, water, magnetism, and beyond. Today, I queried Perplexity AI about this. Other than humans, which mammals bleed as a part of the estrous cycle? In summary, outside of humans, true menstrual bleeding is rare and limited to certain primates: bats, elephant shrews, and the spiny mouse. Other mammals like dogs and cows may bleed during their estrous cycle, but this is not menstruation. Here is the answer of AI mammal group: humans, some primates. Type of bleeding: menstruation. Mechanism: shedding of uterine lining. Mammal group: some bats. Type of bleeding: menstruation. Mechanism: shedding of uterine lining. Mammal group: elephant shrews. Type of bleeding: menstruation. Mechanism: shedding of uterine lining. Mammal group: spiny mouse. Type of bleeding: menstruation. Mechanism: shedding of uterine lining. Mammal group: spiny mouse. Type of bleeding: menstruation. Mechanism: shedding of uterine lining. Mammal group: dogs, cows, some others. Type of bleeding: estrous cycle bleeding. Mechanism: leakage from vaginal blood vessels. My questions are: how accurate is the AL's response? If it is accurate, is bleeding in human females a combination of menstruation and estrous cycle bleeding as a result of leakage from vaginal blood vessels? And is this estrous cycle bleeding from leakage from vaginal blood vessels the result of the terrible environments we live in? And back to my original question. If menstrual bleeding occurs in some mammals, even in optimal environments, what is its evolutionary advantage? Leakage from vaginal blood vessels doesn't sound like it explains excess bleeding associated with diseases like endometriosis and fibroids. I assume such bleeding comes from these growths. Unless in addition to leaky gut and leaky brains, we also have leaky vaginas. Dr. Jack Kruse said my non-AI answer. The leptin-melanocortin pathway is a central regulator of mammalian energy balance, controlling food intake, metabolism, hormone production, fertility, and body weight. Leptin, produced by adipose tissue, signals energy availability to the hypothalamus, where it activates the melanocortin system, particularly via melanocortin 4 receptors and C4R. This pathway, conserved across all mammals, evolved to ensure survival in fluctuating environments by balancing energy storage and expenditure. Epigenetic and genetic disruptions in this pathway lead to severe obesity, underscoring its role in maintaining photobioelectric harmony. In the context of reproduction, the leptin-melanocortin pathway acts as an energy gatekeeper or energy capacitor, ensuring that pregnancy, a massive energy investment, only occurs when energy reserves are sufficient. Leptin levels rise with fat stores, signaling to the hypothalamus that the body can support a fetus. Just as a human is born obese to finish brain development postnatally, leptin is critical in human fertility. In female mammals, this pathway links energy status to reproductive cycles, with menstruation serving as a photobioelectric reset mechanism when conception does not occur. But why shed blood? Why not reabsorb the endometrium, as most mammals do in their estrous cycles? Think about the blogs and all the things about iron and oxygen from the GOE. The GOE predates mammalian evolution, but sculpted what systems they should have. Why? The GOE introduced oxygen as a metabolic game changer, driving the evolution of heme proteins and oxygen-binding molecules like hemoglobin and myoglobin, which enabled efficient energy production and oxygen transport. This is why chlorophyll was built before heme proteins in the GOE. Mg+2 is light-stable. Fe+2 is not light-stable. With their iron porphyrin cores, heme proteins evolved to scavenge and metabolize oxygen, protecting cells from its corrosive effects while harnessing it for oxidative phosphorylation. This innovation was critical for multicellular life, particularly for mammals, whose high metabolic rates demanded robust oxygen delivery systems. In menstruation, heme proteins in blood, e.g., hemoglobin, play a pivotal role. Menstrual blood loss involves shedding heme-rich endometrial tissue laden with iron and oxygen binding capacity. While seemingly wasteful, this process may have evolved as a photobioelectric adaptation to manage oxygen and iron homeostasis, leveraging the GOE's legacy of heme protein functionality. This idea may not stimulate you to understand what menopause really is. It is not what the OB/GYN regurgitates to the public. Let's explore how this ties into the evolutionary advantage of menstruation. Menstruation as a photobioelectric adaptation for chronic winning in a chaotic world. Menstruation ensures that energy is allocated efficiently in female mammals, particularly in species like primates with high reproductive costs. The leptin-melanocortin pathway monitors energy availability, and in humans, where spontaneous decidualization occurs, the endometrium prepares for pregnancy each cycle regardless of conception. If energy reserves are insufficient, signaled by low leptin and melanin levels, the pathway inhibits pregnancy, triggering menstruation to reset the system. Shedding the endometrium, rather than reabsorbing it, prevents the accumulation of metabolic byproducts, e.g., ROS, lipid peroxidation products, that could disrupt mitochondrial stability and increase entropy, aligning with the thread's emphasis on minimizing cellular chaos in the sites. From a photobioelectric perspective, the endometrium's preparation involves light-driven processes. I always comment that sunlight, UV, IRA, NAR, activates VDR and CCO, stabilizing mtDNA and reducing ROS, the first evolutionary bomb in the GOE. In the endometrium, Similar light-driven mechanisms likely regulate cellular turnover, with UPEs 200 to 800 nanometers coordinating gene expression biowave function collapse, as discussed in the thread, third bomb of GOE evolution. Menstruation clears out this tissue when pregnancy doesn't occur, preventing the buildup of light-stress cells that could impair future reproductive success. This reset mechanism ensures that each cycle starts with a clean slate, optimizing energy allocation for high-cost pregnancies in primates and humans. Heme proteins, iron homeostasis, and quantum coherence. Menstrual blood loss, rich in heme proteins like hemoglobin, serves a biophysical purpose tied to the GOE's legacy. Heme proteins evolved to manage oxygen's corrosive effects, and in menstruation, their shedding may protect against oxidative stress in the reproductive tract. The endometrium, a highly vascular tissue, accumulates iron and oxygen during the buildup. If reabsorbed as in ester cycles, this iron could fuel Fenton reactions, generating ROS that damage mtDNA and increase entropy, a risk highlighted in the thread, third bomb of the GOE evolution for vitamin C fueling Fenton reactions. By shedding this tissue, menstruation expels excess iron, reduces oxidative stress, and maintains mitochondrial stability in the uterus, a critical organ for reproductive fitness. Summary: quantum mechanically, heme proteins in menstrual blood may act as quantum transducers. My notes in today's X thread below teach you that collagen's triple helix entangles photons and supports proton tunneling, seventh bomb of the GOE. Similarly, heme's iron porphyrin ring can entangle electrons and photons, absorbing UV light to emit UPEs that signal cellular turnover. This quantum signaling may coordinate the shedding process during menstruation, ensuring coherence in the endometrial reset. While energetically costly, the loss of heme-rich blood aligns with the thread's emphasis on light-driven coherence, removing light-stressed, ROS-laden tissue to protect the quantum harmony of the reproductive system. My Decentralized Thesis and the Garden of Eden, a